This tutorial will show you how to do printmaking on clay slabs. That combines two of my absolute favorite things, clay and lino cut printmaking. If you love learning about art, hit that subscribe button and support this public school teacher's side hustle. The first step is making a lino cut. Now this tutorial is not going to give you a very detailed step-by-step explanation, but if you click the link above or in my description box, I have several videos that will show you the ins and outs of printmaking. Once you have your image transferred to your linoleum, then I always go back over it with Sharpie. This helps me understand which areas to carve and how my line variety and areas of black and white will look once they're printed. Then I'm going to take my linoleum cutter, and in here there are going to be 4 different blades that I'm going to use to cut anything that's not black. So the linoleum, that beige color, anything that's that color I carve, anything that I drew in with black is going to stay, and that will be a raised area that if we were doing this traditionally, it would catch the ink, but it works in reverse as a stamp when you press it into clay. Carving can take some getting used to, and you want to make sure that you're always cutting away from yourself so you don't get yourself stitches or gash into your skin. You do want to pay attention to the areas that you drew, so carve carefully. And again, if you want a detailed explanation of all my tips and tricks, that video will show you the ins and outs. So traditionally, if you add ink, boom, you've got a print where the raised areas are black. If we're doing this on clay, you're going to need a surface first. So let's make a clay slab. Although your slab's gonna be pretty small and not that thick, it takes more clay than you think you need. So pretend you're making a massive hamburger and patty it in your hands and wedge it. If you've never made a slab before, this video above is a slower approach to slab making, and my students sometimes struggle with making their slabs even and not too thin. You will need a canvas and a rolling pin, and do not roll your slab flat on a table. You will only make that mistake once because it is so frustrating to peel all that clay off of it. You might notice my clay looks like it's 2 different colors. That's because I bought 2 different brands of clay and then mixed them together, you know, public school. And with my rolling pin, I'm rolling from the center out so that it stays nice and consistent. I have plenty of clay to cut my slab. I just want to make sure it's not too thin. A thin slab is fragile, so you want it to be at least the thickness of your piece of linoleum, maybe even thicker. You won't regret making your slab a little thicker, but too thin, and you could have some issues later. I'm doing a rough cut with an X-Acto knife to get the basic size of my slab, the basic shape, and you can see the square transferred to the canvas. And then once I press into it, I'll have to cut it and refine it again. Now it's time to press into clay and get your print. So I'm going to take my hands and gently press, covering the full surface of the clay. Then I'm going to grab a rolling pin and very gently pressing, trying to get from center to each corner so that it has a nice even press. You'll see it sinking into the clay. Now I'm going to take my ruler and my X-Acto knife. You can also do this with a fettling knife, and I'm going to trim the edges to make them as straight as possible. You can also touch them up with a sponge and again with a fettling knife or an X-Acto knife once you've pulled the linoleum from the surface. But I like the straight edge that it gives me so I know it's exactly the same size as the linoleum. Now it's time for the magic. Let's reveal our print. Gently pull. Boom, we've got 2 cupcakes. So here's a disclaimer here. The black ink will burn off in the kiln. So I like doing the print on paper first because you can so clearly see your print. But this is printing ink from when I printed on paper, and the kiln's gonna get to about 1800 degrees and that's gonna burn right off. Because we're repeating ourselves, I'm really glad that I have all this extra slab. It's so much better to use more clay to have extra than it is to have almost enough and then have to ball it up after it's been sitting there, it gets a little bit dry, and to do it again. So I'm gonna repeat these steps, same old, pressing down into the clay, gently using a rolling pin so that the imprint is really nice, and then trimming the edges. And this time, I'm using linoleum that I have not done a test print. So watch what happens, watch the difference here when I pull my linoleum. Wait for it. See, the black ink doesn't show up, but you can see the nice indentions. So what's on that is I use a magic marker to see what the black areas would look like, but that did not transfer because it dried out over a year ago. So here's the 2 examples, one with printing ink on it and one without. And since I have so much slab left over, let's go ahead and print another one. So the next step is, if you're using kiln fire clay, let it dry to bone dry and then fire it in the kiln. Once the kiln transforms it from clay to ceramics, you have some beautiful slabs ready for decoration. Now it's time to decide, are you going to glaze or paint, or what cold finish method are you going to use? I usually prefer underglazes to glazing when it comes to detail work, but if you're trying to avoid putting things in the kiln for a second time, this metallic acrylic paint is a great option. You can also use colored pencils. I'll put a list of my favorite clay decorations in the description box. For this, I'm going to try a technique I haven't done in a while, and I'm going to use praying watercolors on clay. Now stick with me. It's not going to look amazing because clay is very porous and it's going to absorb the paint and the water, and it's going to look kind of dry and scratchy and not very vibrant. But I'm going to do a clear coat of spray, like a gloss, and that's going to make this come to life. So if you're not a painter, you might want to stick to something more simple. Watercolor is a great option because you can just keep things really clean. You can blend if you want to, but you really don't have to either. And I thought that the bright colors would lend itself to my fun cupcake theme. So you can see it's not the most vibrant yet. Trust me, wait till the end and you'll see how good it looks. And I've also done this technique with my clay donuts, and that looks really cool because you can really control the color of the donuts and make them look so lifelike. It's important to paint all the edges too because you'll be able to see them because it's a slab. You can also attach something to the back of it. Sometimes I super glue a picture hanging bracket so that I can hang these on the wall. You can get one of those little easels that you can press it on. You can also glue it to a piece of wood. There's so many things you can do with these. They're really fun, and I love that you can make multiples of them. So I'm adding, color where I want it to be, adding some dark areas and then adding some light areas, making sure the cupcake's not pure yellow, but has a little bit of brown mixed in it. And I want to play with some of those raised areas in my background. Okay. Now that I have everything painted, I'm going to take this outside and spray it with my Krylon clear glaze. Look at what a difference just a gloss can do for a piece of clay. This was not put back in the kiln, and look how shiny and beautiful it looks. Thank you so much for sticking around and making art with me, and if you're interested in more tutorials, check these out. Find me on Instagram at thatartteacher_Machado to see what my students are up to in my classroom, and find my website, thatartteacher.com, for full-length lesson plans, rubrics, and student examples, all for free.